you're invited to refreshments, and you're invited, if you don't want refreshments, to ask more questions. You have to find a translator. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
And the whole world needs to know what's happening to these women, exactly what happened to these Trojan women that you saw this evening. Today you have an entire generation with no education. I met children who have not been to school for 3 years. This is a lost generation. These children need to go to school because they are the ones who will go and build the country. We need the generation to build our country. So please help us educate the Syrian children today.
I just want to say I think there are a lot of people in the West who feel very, very bad about what's happening. But because so many of the interventions that the West has made in the Middle East have been so terrible, nobody knows. There are lots of people who care about what's happening to you. And it's harrowing to listen to you. It's really, really upsetting.
I was born in India, and I'm often fighting and resisting the co-opting of images of starving children, or street children, or all these movies that are made about. I get very infuriated when there's a Western. That's what the Western eye gravitates towards, the bizarre, the other, the bizarreness of the other, not the sameness of the other. It was not really a play for me. To me, this was what should be part of the news, but isn't. A personal narrative of how war actually affects people, which is really not. The only thing you hear is that there were 3 drone strikes, and 1 target was hit, we got rid of 1 terrorist. What we don't understand, we really don't understand. We hear collateral damage, but we don't really understand what it was. But it was problematic, though. It was problematic because I think there's something about the sanctity of therapy. I know this is our value. It's a Western value. I mean, I wouldn't want my therapy session to be made into a play. So I thought, this is deeply personal for these women. I wonder if they really kind of understand where this is being heard and how this is being heard.
I mean, the Trojan Women is the first anti-war play and a very strong anti-war document. And so the women, when they found this document, and yes, they found it because people came from England and put it in their hands which otherwise were doing nothing. And they were living in isolated apartments in Amman, and no one was paying the remotest attention to them. But when they found this text, it was so meaningful to them, and they felt it really spoke to their experiences.
I had the chance of visiting the University of Damascus some years ago, before this, and I was very, very impressed by the freedom of religion, the freedom of women at the university. I think there were more women in physics than we have at the University of Copenhagen. So I talked to them a lot afterwards on what are they doing and what are their life and who was studying at the university, and they were very, very grateful to hear that we appreciate what a pearl Damascus was and how important it is to get it back. So I think the strongest for me was to see them as more normal people in normal clothes afterwards.
Precisely to that point, after you all left, there were just a couple of us here, Tom and I, a couple others, and all of a sudden we saw the women all gathered in a huddle over here. And they're in this huddle and they're down there, and we all thought, oh my God, it's this cool. What are they doing? It turns out they were looking at an iPhone images that they had taken. We all thought, everybody's running to get their cameras. Oh, this is the celebration, this is something very Syrian. Nah, it was something very human. They were looking at a picture.